What's up, everybody, and welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. Excuse me, allergies been kicking my ass this week. This one, I have really been trying to stay out of drama, and especially YouTube drama, okay? Because that's pretty much where I kind of lie with all this shit. I'm in the YouTube world. That's my kind of thing. But this is in the bodybuilding world in general, and I just saw the video from Lee Priest, and I don't even know if Lee Priest knows who I am. He has commented on some of my pictures on Instagram, which I thought was really cool. I've been a big fan of Lee, and the latest videos for Generation Iron, and says flat out, he says something like Shawn Ray is a piece of shit or something like that. Okay, now let me just start out by saying I've never met Lee, I've never talked to Lee, I don't know anything about Lee in real life except for what we see on the internet. And Lee seems like a straight up, in your face type of guy, much like myself. I'd say Lee has a little less of a filter than I do. I think I have a little bit more of a filter than he does in some instances, maybe some not. And seems like a generally good dude. Like, he just kind of does his thing and, says what's on his mind, and really doesn't mean to offend anybody or piss anybody off. It's his opinion who he is. Now, that being said, Shawn Ray is actually a friend of mine. Like, I know Shawn. And Shawn is the exact same way as Lee Priest. He just says what's on his mind and doesn't think about whether it'll piss someone off or not. He's just doing his thing. Now, that sounds like very similar personalities, right? This person is the way they are. This person is the way they are. They have zero fucking filter. They say what they want, when they want, how they want. They don't worry about what other people think. That's actually the same person pretty much. But I'm not saying that Lee Priest is like Shawn and Shawn's like Lee. But let me just delve into why I don't have a problem with Shawn Ray. He's actually a friend of mine. Now, when I met Shawn, this was the first time I met Shawn. I think it was he came here to MC a bodybuilding show in Maryland, and I met him, and he seemed like a good dude, and one thing led to another, and I wound up seeing it at the different expos and stuff like that. I wound up actually promoting his show in Maryland for the Shawn Ray Classic. We became good friends, and when I went out to Vegas, I would hang out with him and stuff for the Olympia, and he would literally check up on me and see what's going on. And I know Shawn has that kind of edge to him when he'll say stuff that you could very well take it in a bad way. You could very well take it not in a bad way. Now, most of the shit I don't take in a bad way, and he's kind of fucked around with me a little bit, personally, through text message and stuff, and we kind of laugh it off. I laugh it off, I'm like, whatever. I just kind of give the shit back to him and be like, we laugh about it, whatever. But part of the thing is, with Shawn, and there's other people that I know that many people in the body industry don't like. And they're like, Jerry, why do you like him? Or why do you hang out with him? Or why do you even associate with him? And the only thing I can say is they've never done anything to me. I don't know the backstory between Lee Priest and Shawn Ray. I don't know the backstory between Shawn and Paul Dillette or anyone else. It's none of my fucking business. It really isn't. I judge people how they treat me. Now, if they treated someone in my family like shit, again, I would take offense to that and be like, what the fuck? Why would you do that? You know what I mean? But I don't know what their personal things are that's going on with them, and who the fuck am I to judge what's going on in someone's life when I don't have the facts? So if someone's not a shithead to me, why the fuck should I not like them? And I also don't expect much from people. The standard that I hold people to are not the standard that I hold myself to. I don't hold anybody to any standard. Actually, my standards are pretty low with people, to be totally honest with you. I don't expect anybody to keep their promises, keep their word. I expect people to stab me in the back. I expect people to fuck me over. I expect that from everyone that comes into my life. I just do. Now, doesn't mean that's going to happen to me, but that's human nature. Okay, that happens 50% of the time. You see people not living up to other people's expectations, and the people that had them kind of put on that pedestal or wanted them to live up to it are disappointed and hurt, and they fucking don't like them, and they say shit about them, and then it turns into a big thing, and it's like, until someone does something to me, why the fuck am I going to do that? Now, I do remember saying that, Lee Priest is definitely the best. I said this on a RX Muscle thing. That was on RX Muscle Iron Debate with Dave and John Romano, and I think it was just us three. And they said the question was, do you think Lee Priest is the best 212 competitor to never compete? That was the question that sparked this whole thing with Shawn Ray and Lee Priest. And I said, I thought about it for a second. I said, yes, absolutely, hands down. And then John Romano, yes, Lee Priest. And then Dave says, Dave was the last one to go, and he has the final word. It's called the final word, Dave. And Dave says, Shawn Ray. And I was like, Shawn Ray? I was like, what the fuck? Shawn, I personally thought Shawn competed in 228, 229, even 230. I thought he was well above the 212. It would never come down to the 212 class at the end. So, I know when he was younger, he was competing in 205, something like that. And I was thinking the end of the career, see, he's too big. He doesn't compete in the 212. He's not a 212. He's a fucking open competitor, right? And then Shawn texts me about a day later and is like, what are you fucking crazy? You think Lee Priest would beat me? You think Lee Priest is better than me? He wasn't upset, but he was like kind of toying with me, kind of fucking with me. And he said, you know, Lee never beat me in competition. And that is what he said. And that wasn't a diss on Lee. That was just a fact. That's just Lee never beat him in competition. Okay. Well, so if you had to judge it based on that and say if Lee never beat him, would Shawn Ray be a better 212 competitor than Lee Priest? Okay, yes, right? That's why Dave brought it up and said Shawn would be better. And, you know, I felt bad at that point because I'm like, I didn't even think Shawn was a 212 competitor, but I think Lee is amazing and awesome, and that would be a matchup that all of us would love to see. We would love to see Shawn and Lee bang heads. Who comes out on top? I mean, who the fuck knows? But Shawn wanted to be known that he beat Lee every single time they competed against each other. Now, how can you get mad at someone for wanting the credit that they deserve for something they did? You know, like, he wasn't talking shit to me about Lee. He was giving me facts, saying, like, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And he wasn't being a dick. He was being playful, and he likes to send these little fucking memes. He's like the meme guy. Like, he sends these fucking... It's funny as shit. He'll send these memes to you while you're texting, but he wasn't being a dick about it. He was just like, is that what you really think? Because this. You know, and then I think, the shit that Shawn got from that, like people questioning him and saying, yeah, did you hear Lee Priest is better than you? I think that egged Shawn on a little bit to say some things which was on his mind that most people wouldn't say because they don't want to offend anybody. They don't want anybody to really know how they feel. And Shawn Ray said the things that he said, and it got back to Lee, and then, Lee was upset and said, or maybe Lee wasn't upset, but, Lee's like, fuck this guy. He's been fucking with me for a long time. This new video of Lee said that him and Shawn have this, I wouldn't say love-hate, maybe hate-hate relationship, but going all the way back to when Lee first came to America for his first guest posing. And Shawn's always been kind of fucking with him, which, I hear a lot of that stuff, like Shawn would fuck with this guy, he'd fuck with that guy, and drive him nuts, or fucking, he would do these things that maybe was mentally to fuck with them, like Arnold used to do. Who the fuck knows? Maybe it was just Shawn being Shawn when he was younger. Who the fuck knows? But the bottom line is, this whole thing got stirred up over who's a better 212 competitor when neither one of them are ever going to compete again, probably, and let alone in a 212 division in an IFBB show. And it stems back to like some bad blood with them from all the way around. So my 2 cents is like, if they don't like each other, they don't like each other. If they bury the hatchet one day, they do. I mean, Shawn and Kevin Levrone had an issue because Shawn spoke out freely against Kevin making a comeback. And, Kevin was pretty insulted. He wanted the support of his friends. I support him. I support Kevin for the show, after the show, now. I'm 100% behind Kevin if he decides to compete again. I think he's going to do something in 2017. I'm going to love to see it. We all are. We love Kevin. So it's, and when Shawn and him kind of had not a falling out, but a disagreement, Shawn went up to him. There's a video of that up online where they figured it out. They kind of worked it out and stuff. Will Shawn and Lee work it out? I don't know. Who the fuck knows? Do they even want to work it out? Who the fuck knows? I don't think they were friends like Shawn and Kevin were, but bottom line is, you got to respect Lee for what he did. You got to respect Shawn for what he did. But you have to understand that people are who they are, and if you expect them to be a different way and they don't live up to that, that's not their fault. That's actually your fault. BioStrength@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostrength.com is the blog. It's living up to expectations by SetPointJerryWard. We're out.